What is up, guys? Mr. Basie here, and once again, back on some Seduce Me 2, right where we left off, right after the Sam demon sex scene, of all things, right? If you want to enter the giveaway, all you got to do is drop a comment down below saying something along the lines of, I'd like to enter the giveaway. If you're re-entering, which you can each new video, you say, I want to re-enter the video, or I want to re-enter the giveaway. If you do win, it will be sent to you via your YouTube private message system, so make sure you have all that squared away in your Google Plus settings. I will get you your code one way or the other, but that's the easiest way to do it, so make sure you have the ability to be messaged turned on in your Google Plus settings. The giveaway is for a full copy of the Seduce Me 2, the Demon War game via a Steam key. So with that being said, I think that's all I need to say on that. Again, for those of you that are interested, I don't know how many of you like Pokemon. I did start a Pokemon Go series. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you want to see it as a series. The more people actually, really want it, the more community feedback I get that actually is in favor of the series continuing. Naturally, the more frequently you will see that series. So with that being said, I really appreciate your guys' time allowing me to promo my other video. But with that being said, let me jump right into it and see what today has in store. I had to be ready for the trial. I half expected to wake up to Diana being disguised as Sam as the morning came. And see, that's got to be really stressful, because like now that you know she can do that, or that that's an ability, whether it's for her or all demons, like you just, how do you know that the person you're talking to is actually that person? Like, I would be so weirded out after that. However, as I spoke, I was happily in the arms of the man I loved. Despite the tired fog over my vision, I could sense that the man who was holding me was the true Sam. The way he held me gave it all away. All right, well, love prevails. As he pulled my body close to him, I giggled, knowing Sam was awake. I know you're awake.
No, you don't, you doofus.
I laughed and kissed his nose softly. He's more like straightforward than James. James needed a little bit more nudging before he actually gave up that he was awake, causing Sam to open his eyes. As he gazed into my eyes and smiled, I felt my heart completely swell in joy. I had almost forgotten about the day ahead. All I wanted to do was stay in bed with him a little longer.
Morning.
Sam lazily leaned forward and kissed me before pulling me to his chest and sitting us both up.
Come on, time to get up.
You never change those pants, my dude. I mean, I'm cool with you having pants on. I mean, actually, please. I mean, many of you are probably like, no, take them off. I'm like, please keep them on. I really appreciate that. But at least change them, unless he's like double D and he wears like the same thing all the time. Do we have to? As I asked, I could sense a new determination from Sam. Something about him seemed confident despite having just woken up. I tilted my head and placed my hands on his shoulders, curious as to why that was. Hey, what's got you so energized? Gee, I wonder. Sam turned his head and looked in my direction, giving me a surprised look himself.
Huh? What do you mean? I'm always energized.
Well, that's good to hear.
Gross, what are you doing here? Were you just under the bed fapping? Sam and I looked over at the door suddenly to see Dinah leaning against the archway, holding 2 large plates of food. I was surprised she was able to carry them. Both plates were piled with food that looked absolutely delicious. Sam and I practically salivated at the sight before Sam shook his head and glared at Diana.
You ever learn how to knock?
Well, we have a lot to do, so I figured knocking would only waste precious time. My apologies.
What? It's like 2 seconds, Diana. Come on now. I mean, I realized you were carrying a lot of food, but Dinah walked over at last and handed us our plates before stepping back and crossing her arms. Sam began to chow down as I took the slower approach to eating while what I was given with a laugh.
So, are you prepared for your test, dear?
That made me stop and look up at Diana. She knew that I was next. She already devoted herself to the dragon before, so it wasn't surprising. But maybe she knew what exactly was in store for me. Like, what is, and see, that's the thing, why does she trust this dragon so much? Like, just because he's really powerful, how do you know it's not some trick, you know what I mean? I don't know. It could be a trick. Like, I'm severely, like, thinking to myself, he promised her something, the likes of which I could only speculate to what it could be, but, whatever. I mean, let me know, guys. I mean, I'm sure I already know the answer, but I'm curious, would any of you just straight up do something that a absolutely, I'm assuming, massive dragon would tell you to do? Let me know in the comments. I'm interested to see if any of you say yes, and please provide your reasoning down below. I couldn't be sure. Do you know what my test is? Dinah nodded as Sam looked up to see her answer. I gulped, now a bit worried. Can you tell me?
Unfortunately, no. I cannot. If I could, I would, dear.
I grimaced, looking to the fireplace and knowing that the dragon was probably watching. I half expected him to answer for Dinah, but he didn't speak. My mind began to fill with ideas of what it could be about, What was I going to be tested on? How was it going to go down? Would I have to fight? All the possibilities lingered in my thoughts as Sam finished his food.
Hey,
I looked to Sam, feeling him rub my back gently with his strong hand. I felt some comfort in the gesture and more from the smile on his face.
you'll be fine. I believe in you.
Well, thanks, dude. At least you believe in me. Oh, okay. Well, let's kiss him. Damn, right in front of Diana. Man, that's gonna rile up some tensions. I was happy to know that Sam believed in me and supported me. I gave him a loving peck on his lips, causing him to stare wide-eyed with a blush. Really? After what we just did last night, that's what makes you blush? I had to giggle at the sight while Dinah rolled her eyes and let out a groan. Dinah, however, looked to the fireplace.
I will say this, though. It should be easy for you.
Damn, okay. See? Apparently she has more confidence in us than Sam. She just basically called us a boss. Huh? It should be easy. Dinah nodded before turning around and looking over her shoulder to maintain eye contact with me.
Yes, that is, if you believe in your love.
I stared wide-eyed at Diana before she turned and walked away, leaving me and Sam alone. I grew curious and concerned, but I had to let it go for now. The test was apparently tonight, so I had to wait. Alright, as I arrived in the hall for training, I was surprised to see Diana in the room instead of Sarah. Oh shit. Diana? I'm just gonna leave that in because that's kind of funny. Like, if you imagine, that's probably what she'd be like Diana, a little voice crack. Diana turned to me and crossed her arms, taking in my form. Well then. I mean, I'm taking in her form all the time, so I suppose that's the least she can do for me.
You will be training with me today. I apologize for Sarah's absence.
Was he too rough in bed last night? What do you mean? Where's Sarah?
He asked to train on his own for the day. As he will be in the front lines of the siege, I granted him permission.
I pressed my lips together into a fine line but nodded. If he was charging at the front, then it made sense that he'd want to take a day and work on himself. I held my hand out and summoned my weapon, ready to fight the queen of the rebellion head on. Alright, then don't hold back. That's not wise, just saying. I'm just using the knowledge I already have about what she did to the Demon Lord. I'm like, that might not be the wisest idea. Dinah nodded and prepped her stance, summoning her saber and bringing it back behind her. I had to use this new training partner as a new experience. Not everyone would fight like Sarah, so this was a good challenge for me. Fighting with Diana was no easy task. She was quick and thought 10 steps ahead of me, catching me off guard at some point. Still, I could tell that I was putting up a good fight with my defense. What surprised me was how time passed by without me even noticing it. The more I clashed with Diana, the more ignorant I became of the sky's eventual descent from light purple to dark orange. Soon enough, our training had ended. Dang. I panted out of breath, but surprisingly still on my feet. I didn't understand how or why, but I could only assume that I was getting better, which was a good thing. Dinah smirked as she relaxed, stretching back and making her saber vanish.
I will admit, dear, you've done well for just a handful of days.
Oh, damn. Thanks, Dinah. We're boss, aren't we? I grinned, happy to hear that I had impressed Dinah with my skills. I only trained for a couple of days, but showed great improvement. Maybe the Demon World was aiding me in becoming a stronger person. Man, we need like the MLG freaking Doritos thing going on right now. Thank you, Dinah. Dinah nodded before walking to the exit of the room.
Now, please excuse me. I must see to the boys. You are free to come with if you'd like.
Nice. I declined and left the room as well, towards the opposite direction, feeling my bed calling to me. Besides, I didn't want to be a distraction. As I was heading to my room, I passed by a door that was only open a small crack, overhearing a quiet conversation.
This idea is idiotic, guard.
What?
Leaving during a war could be considered treason, and you would be abandoning your duties to your mistress.
Oh my. What do you mean, leaving?
I know that, but...
No, peer in, fuck. I'm saving though, I'm not trying to get shafted. I stopped walking and peered inside, wanting to see what was going on. Oh man. Sarah was standing steadfast by the large fireplace's shadow, arrogant as ever, loomed over the small table that was covered in maps and books.
Do you really think a quest like this is beneficial to the war? All it would do is leave us with one less powerful ally for a significant amount of time.
I would not be gone long. I'd researched this.
Yes, I have researched this route multiple times. You've already spouted that more times than I care to appreciate. Regardless, even if things did go your way, and you journey there and back without some form of incident, you would turn up a day before the siege. Your mistress will not likely forgive your absence.
Jeez. Why? I mean, I understand why they're referring to her as his mistress, but that's just a little weird in this context, considering he actually loves her.
But I have a feeling that this will be worth that absence. If I can do this, if I can prove that my love for her is real.
Oh, he's straight telling this dude, like, are you guys buds or something? You bros?
You are having delusions of grandeur. Love does not exist for us demons. This quest is folly.
Dick! I glared at Shadow. Why was he being such an ass? Zero, however, looked to his feet, gritting his teeth and shutting his eyes.
You came here and asked for my counsel, guard. I am merely telling you the truth of the matter. Whatever hope that human placed in your mind is illogical, and only a detriment to our cause.
Damn. I mean, what benefit would it have done us to just keep walking? Like, what, we just don't give a shit? Sarah.
I hope you take my words into careful consideration. Nothing fruitful will come from this journey you wish to undertake.
What? As he finished speaking, Shadow faded into a black shadow on the ground and slipped into the dark corner of the library. That's not weird at all, vanishing from sight completely. I'm just gonna sit in this corner. Sarah growled beneath his gritted teeth and slammed his fist against the mantle behind him, forming a large crack on the stone. Damn, this place looks like it costs a lot, bro. Chill.
Damn it.
He's like, damn it, my hand. No, let's enter the room, again, saving to avoid being shafted. Alright. Shadow was wrong. Whatever Sarah wanted to do to prove his love for Dinah was worth it. I felt my heart agree with my thoughts with a firm thump in my chest. Or there's something wrong with your heart. You might want to get that checked out. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door and entered the room. Sarah looked up at me with a startled gaze when he heard the door creak as it opened.
Oh,
It's just me, bro. Chill, okay? It's not Diana with her boobs flapping. Sarah looked down at the table, embarrassed, while he rubbed the back of his neck. Well, he just assumed that we heard that, I guess?
How long were you there?
Long enough to hear what Shadow said about me. With a frown, Sarah turned his gaze to his feet. As I stepped further into the room, he let out a sigh.
I've been thinking a lot about what we've talked about. You asked me if there was a way to prove my love to Azair. Well, there is a way.
Now, don't get me wrong here, okay? Because this is really sweet and all that, but couldn't you just say that he loves her? Like, straight up? I mean, I get that he wants to prove it, but, you know, the whole argument was that Diana couldn't recognize love when it was standing right in front of her. So just tell her. Why do you got to make her guess? Why do you have to make her, like, realize this? I mean, she obviously knows that you care a lot for her, right? I mean, so just say it. Say, nut up, dude. Really? Sarah nodded before ushering me over to the table. I walked over and looked at what Sarah wanted to show me. A large set of maps, all pointing to a single area in the abyssal plains near the ocean.
There's a legend that has been passed around the demon world for eons. The Golden Rose. It said that if someone finds its hiding place and proves that the love in their heart is real, the rose will blossom and become physical proof of their true love.
That's awesome, actually. Is this legend true?
No one can say for sure. No one has ever found it, yet the legend exists, so it must have some form of merit. I've tried for years to find its location, and now I have.
Damn, such a convenient time, too. Sarah pointed at a hand-drawn circle on the map and glided his finger along the map towards the area where the rose was said to be.
It would only take me 2 days to get there and to return. If the story is true, then I'm positive I can find it and bring it back to Azair as proof of my love.
But don't you think that it would just be better to do this after the war? Like, this doesn't seem to have a deadline, unless they actually say this in the next couple of lines, but it doesn't seem to me that this has any sort of deadline. So I'm just wondering, like, what benefit would this serve doing it now? Like, you could do it afterwards. And she'd be even happier, right? If we win the war, she'd be even happier. Be cool. As Sarah finished, his smile darkened to a sad grimace.
However, I have been advised against this journey, and for good reason. I would be abandoning my lady days before the final battle, and that alone could be considered treason. Even more so, would she forgive me for leaving at such a crucial time?
That's my point, my dude. Like, don't go now. Like, go later. You don't need to go right now. You know what I'm saying? Because she's going to be mad that you left. Like, she's going to be mad. I don't know. It just seems like it would, like, it's kind of like negating. It's like a positive and a negative, right? They're canceling each other out. You have this, you're proving your true love, but at the same time, you just ditched her. So, like, I don't understand how that makes sense. I looked at Sero's face, seeing the conflicting emotions running through his eyes as he stared at the maps in front of us. Was it really worth it?
Still, this may be my only chance to do this. When we win this war, my lady will require me to be by her side more so than ever. I must be there to support her at all times when she rebuilds this broken world, but I would lose the chance to prove my love to her.
What kind of sense does that make, dude? I'm sure she's good for like 2 or 3 days, you know? I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. Leaving at that time, once the war is over and it's considered technically peacetime, you know, is much more reasonable than leaving right before the war. To me. I don't know. I didn't know what to say in response. While I wanted him to do what he felt was right, there were so many things that could go wrong. What if the legend was false? He could be gone for nothing and would come back empty-handed. What if something happened while he was away? He wouldn't be able to return in time to help. Or what if something happened to him on his journey? He wasn't invincible. I closed my eyes trying to figure out what to say to him. When I realized what I wanted to say, I spoke up. Dude, I want this guy to go. It doesn't honestly, like, I understand there wouldn't be much of a story, you know, or much of a choice if I said just go after. Like, that should be a choice, right? But I would say go regardless. So just because it's not a convenient time in my eyes doesn't necessarily mean that he shouldn't go. I think he should go. So let's tell him to do that. Sarah really loved Dinah. It was plain as day, and if she wasn't persuaded yet from his words and dedication, this journey would convince her. It was worth the risk if he was really in love with her. She was strong enough to handle things on her own while Sarah was away. Sarah looked at me in surprise as I smiled at him. If this will prove your love to her, then you should find the rose and give it to her. Whatever the risk is, if you believe it's worth it, then do it. Dang. Look at him, he's so happy. He's like, oh, thank goodness. Something in Sarah's eyes glistened. Don't look at me like that. As if a spark had been ignited and the hope in his heart began to burn with, I was about to say, to bury with joy? What the fuck? It doesn't even make sense. To burn with joy. A smile grew onto his face as he nodded, now determined.
You're right. I'll leave tonight and come back with the rose, even if it's the last thing I do.
Jeez, man. Go get that rose, man. Do it. I grinned widely. I was happy for him. To see Sarah so determined to prove his love filled my soul with joy. As he stepped towards me, I watched as he wrapped his arms around me, giving me a friendly hug. That's so sweet, man. We made a friend, dude. That's cool.
Thank you for your help. I won't ever forget this.
Does that mean you're gonna save our ass when we get like scrubbed on? Because it's undoubtedly gonna happen. Like, we're gonna get scrubbed on. I'm counting on you, dude. Thanks. Now let's encourage him, right? Don't say nothing. Like, whatever. He just gives us this. He's like, oh man, I won't forget this. You did me a real solid. It's just like, it's freaking some sort of doll. Yeah, you got this, bro. I smile and hugged him back, patting his back. At my words, he squeezed me tighter before letting me go. Everyone wants to chop me in half in this game. Sam was trying to break me in half like in the last episode. This dude's trying to break me in half now. This ain't good, man. We gotta stop getting hugs. Sarah nodded to me before rushing out of the library, most likely to set off on his journey as quickly as possible. He needed all the time he could get. I, however, felt my heart give an approving thud in my chest. Again, you gotta get that checked out. I had done the right thing. It raised a question, however. Would I have done the same for the one I love? You damn straight it obviously, man. As I freaking stutter about it, right? Like I'm contemplating it. After a brief moment, I nodded to myself. Yes, I would have. I left the library and headed towards my room, now filled with determination of my own. Dang. Oh, what's up, bro? As I marched back to my room, I was stopped by Sam. I stared at him as he leaned against the door to our room, as if he had been waiting for me for a while.
Hey.
What's up, bro? I knew that this could only mean one thing. My test was waiting for me. Fuck! I pressed my lips together, nervous, but knowing that I had to go through with it regardless of how I felt. Dinah's words began to flood back into my mind as I took Sam's hand and gave it a squeeze. Sam squeezed my hand back, nodding and led me away from our bedroom towards the war room, where Dinah was waiting for us. Jeez, man. As I expected, Sarah wasn't with Dinah, which made Dinah's anxiousness seem a little more prominent. He really did never leave her side. Was she that dependent on him? As Dinah locked her sights on us, she let out a sigh and gestured to the table, where a large conglomerate of items were placed and presented. Sam halted his stop, staring at the table in absolute shock. I, however, merely grew confused. On the table was an assortment of single flowers, each of a different color and type. They were formed in a magic circle pattern. But there was no magic to be seen. Dude, they already got the flowers. So Sarah's out there searching. He's not going to find shit. He's probably going to find the dragon mouth.
When did you...
Hush, this is for her.
Sam instantly shut his mouth. As I looked to Sam in confusion, he knew what this was. I turned to Dinah completely lost. We know. We found out. It was like some sort of rose or
Dear,
golden something, right?
Do you know what I've prepared here?
I don't know, a meal for a rabbit? I don't fucking know. I stared at the table, unsure how to discern it. A couple of ideas came to mind, but I Didn't want to be wrong if this was part of the test. Sam knew what it was, too, given the strong reaction from him. Could it have been a demon marriage ritual? Don't even answer. Saving? So I don't know what to do. I'm just going to say this, because I'm pretty sure it might be. He was surprised. He's like, oh, what is this? Like, when did you do this, right? And we know he wants to marry us demon style, right? So it's got to be. I mean, he wouldn't know about the flower, would he? That was it. It had to have been. Why else would Sam react so strangely? It had been on his mind, and now it was staring me dead in the face. Dinah nodded, gesturing to the flowers.
This is a marriage ritual. Freshly blossomed flowers, holding peak-worthy magical essence, arranged in a magic circle, are part of what a binding ritual needs to happen.
Part? Dinah nodded and looked at the table.
The other part is a precious item forged between two souls to bind them together.
I couldn't believe it. This was my test? There was no way. I was ready for this. But here I was, staring at a setup that just screamed, go through with it. Part of me was angry and aggravated. Wait, isn't that like the same thing? Angry and aggravated? I had to go through this for some stupid dragon's power? This was something Sam and I were supposed to discuss together. Now it felt like an arranged agreement. What was I going to do? The test was obviously going to make me go through with this for the sake of Sam, but I still wasn't ready. Soul binding seemed very heavy, and as much as I loved Sam, I needed to be 100% clear. Sam stepped forward and glared at Dinah.
We're not doing this.
Damn.
Pardon?
You heard me. We're not going through with this.
I stared at Sam wide-eyed. What? He didn't want to go through with it anymore? What was going on? I remembered clearly that he wanted to do it. Now he was against it? Sam looked to me and I could suddenly see the reason why buried in his eyes. He still wanted to, but not like this. I could tell he was throwing away something he desperately wanted for my own sake. Sam. Sam turned and grasped my shoulders, staring into my eyes.
I know that I want to do this. I want to do this more than anything. But you are more important to me than some dumb ritual. I will never let you force yourself to make this decision if you're nowhere near ready.
I felt like crying. This was exactly why I loved him. This was one of a million reasons why Sam was so important to me. My heart felt at ease, looking into his eyes and letting rogue tears roll down my cheeks. It may have seemed like a simple thing, but to me this was important. I gently caressed Sam's cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath my hand, and thanking every deity I knew that I had him beside me as mine. Every deity, just every single one. However, as Dinah cleared her throat, we both turned to her in reaction. What really threw us off was seeing her cover her mouth, hiding some sort of smirk that was peeking out between her fingers. What the fuck?
Who said anything about you going through with it?
Ew. Sam and I became dumbfounded. What? We didn't have to go through with it? Then why was it set up?
For fuck's sake, if you're messing with us...
Oh no. It's to you? Is it to you? I'm done if it's to you. Dinah began to laugh hysterically, causing Sam to stop talking and become dumbfounded once again. What the hell was going on? Frickin' Diana, what are you doing?
I knew it! I knew it!
Are you the imp? You're the imp from the beginning that grabbed my ankles and looked up my skirt.
What the fuck, Diana?
I was beyond lost. As Diana continued to laugh, she curled over her stomach and covered her face, trying to catch her breath. Damn, is it that funny shit?
This was perfect! This was absolutely perfect!
It's gross is what it is. Diana! Now I became frustrated. What was so funny about this? Dinah finally stopped laughing, wiping her eyes from the tears that had formed from laughing so hard, and grinned at me and Sam.
I didn't set this up to make you two do it. That would ruin the point of the test.
Oh, you're gonna make me eat it like a rabbit, aren't you? Then what is this test? I became flustered, now mentally scrambling as to what was going on. As my body suddenly began to sink into the ground, however, I gasped and looked down, seeing a large purple pentagram pulling me and Sam into the floor. No!
Whoa!
Oh shit!
Demon marriage lets you know where your soul partner is at all times. The test is that you find your husband without it.
Man, we got this, dude. We just gotta be boss, like always. I couldn't even fight back as I was engulfed by darkness at last. It's not evil at all. I couldn't tell how long I was trapped in that darkness. All I knew was that I was going to wake up and find Sam. As I opened my eyes, I had to adjust to the bright light around me and the sound of nature in my ears. I rubbed my eyes and found myself in a forest, lying underneath a large tree with burn marks across its bark. I could tell that this would be my starting place and my marker if I got lost. So while I felt terrible for the tree, I was thankful to have something to visually reference. Well, at least the tree serves some purpose, right? Besides provide the oxygen that you're breathing. So this was my test. I had to find the man I loved without anything but my heart and my instincts. This was cheesy as hell, expecting someone to find someone else using the power of love. I loved Sam deeply, but I didn't know if it would be strong enough to guide me through a terrain I was unaware of to Sam, who also could have been wandering around looking for me. There were so many variables to consider. Still, this was a test for a reason. I had to figure this out. I cupped my hands together and shouted, knowing his name would be a way to bring him to me. Hey, Maurice! The nearby birds around me fluttered wildly in the air in surprise of my shout. Like, damn, bitch, what the But Sam didn't understand. What the hell? That was supposed to have worked. Something must have had him under holy magic or something to negate the demon summoning, another part of the test. Guess I wasn't allowed to cheat. It was worth a try. Just go and find... Well, if that was that simple, shit, why don't we just do it? We gotta calm down, okay? Let's calm ourselves and think logically, all right, about this. I had to be methodical about this. There was no use in panicking over the situation. The forest couldn't be that big, could it? I shook my head. Nope. I had to find him if it was the last thing I'd do. This was the only way to get the dragon's power, as difficult and unnecessary as it was. I took in a deep breath and looked around, trying to decide where to start. I started heading to the left of the tree's burn marks. It was better than no direction at all, and it was a start. Each step I took became one filled with haste. I wanted to find Sam soon, and I didn't want to be lazy. I didn't want to laze about this. I felt like hours went by until I stopped and looked around, exhausted from walking so far at such a fast pace. I leaned against a nearby tree, catching my breath. It's got the burn marks in it. We were walking in circles. How the hell am I going to find him? Something in my heart began to feel heavy. What if I wasn't able to find him? What if this was an impossible quest? I felt my body slide down the side of the tree, making me sit down at the base in fear. This couldn't be. Sadness and ache began to consume my thoughts. There was no way to track him, no way to find him at all in this place. I'd be searching forever, only hoping that I would find him and pray that he was alive when I did. My hands combed through my hair as I fought back tears. Please let me wake up if this was a dream. Please let me see him again.
Giving up so soon, my dear?
We're just, crying a bit. We're not giving up yet. At Dinah's voice, I suddenly gasped and looked up, only to find no one around. I quickly stood and scanned the area, but alas, there were only trees around. Dinah, I don't know what to do. How can I find him?
You have all of the means to find him. You're just not thinking it through.
I looked into the air, confused as ever. What did she mean? I didn't have anything but the clothes I was wearing. Dinah chuckled slightly.
Think. Besides his heart, what else did he give you as a token of his love?
His ween piece? Like, I don't know, dude. What did he give me, dude? I don't even know. As she said that, the answer came into mind, replaying the night Sam proposed to me in the night sky. I looked to my hand, seeing the engagement ring Sam had given me resting on my finger, glistening in the light. Was this said? I don't remember this being said. Maybe it was. I don't know.
There we are. The other part of the marriage ritual.
Second part? This was...
Indeed. It seems he intended to ask you to be his in body, heart, and spirit.
My heart gave a hard and heated thump against my chest. Again, you really need to get a look. That's happening way too often, girl. I'm sorry, but there's something wrong with you. Agreeing with Dinah's words. He had been preparing all along to ask me to be his, but wanted to at least give me what I wanted first before asking for what he wanted. I smiled, staring at the sparkling emeralds and diamonds on my ring, and finally feeling the magic pulse within it. Still, I was lost on how to use it. How will this help me? Dinah chuckled once more, her voice quieter than ever.
I can't give you all of the answers, dear, but at least you won't be lost anymore.
Her voice finally vanished into the air, leaving me alone once more. However, my focus was on my ring. I remembered clearly that this wasn't an ordinary ring, but one magically forged the night Sam proposed. Sam, I'm gonna find you. I nodded and I felt a wave of hope and courage rush through my body. I was ready now. I focused on the ring, trying to will it to give me a sign, a hint, anything to help me find Sam. As I stared into it, a word popped into my mind, letting it loose. I could feel magic pulse into the air from around my body. Amour. Isn't that love? In French or something? My hand suddenly became wrapped in green chain-shaped markings, sprouting from the base of my ring, before jutting off of my skin and flying forward through the air deeper into the forest. I felt myself grinning from ear to ear. I was gonna find him. I quickly burst into a sprint, following the ethereal chain that was leading me towards Sam, uncaring of the harsh breaths I was taking or the pain that shot through my legs. I needed to keep going forward. All that mattered was that I had to keep moving forward. The chain twisted and turned around trees and often arched around obstacles for me, guiding me perfectly towards a thicker brush of woods. The amount of bushes and smaller trees began to grow the farther in I went, but I continued. Soon enough, I found myself walking towards the descending mouth of a cave, where a familiar brown-haired demon boy laid face down at its edge. Sam! I ran forward and slid onto my knees, lifting his head up into my lap. Around his neck was a golden collar which, upon my touch, vanished and caused Sam to stir from his comatose state.
What?
Oh shit, my heart began to swell. Now it's swelling? Okay, really, go to the hospital. As I stared down at him, tears welling up in my eyes. This was really him. He was safe here in my arms and I had found him. His emerald gaze bore into mine, still dazed from the sleep he was in. As he stared up at me, Sam lifted his head and caressed my cheek, causing me to unconsciously nuzzle into it.
There you are.
Boy, you're gonna let me kiss you. The fuck? We're gonna save and do that. That's funny. I don't know why it comes off like that, but I couldn't help but repeat the first words he had ever said to me. He said, "Boy, you're gonna let me kiss you?" What the? They had engraved themselves into my mind, and I was forever thankful for that day. Oh, maybe it was girl, but still, it's pretty weird. Sam's lips curved into a smug smile, remembering the phrase perfectly.
Then hurry up and do it.
Okay, thank goodness. No, I remember very, very distinctly the sound that the kissing sound made in the first game. That was kind of gross. I grinned and bent down, capturing his lips with my own. My entire body felt complete as our lips touched. I didn't care if he took energy from me in it. I had found him.
Well done.
Best not be coming out of your mouth, Sam. To our surprise, the voice didn't ring in our heads. The voice of the dragon echoed from the cave, causing me and Sam to separate and stare into the void.
You have proven to me the strength of your heart. Now, for the final test, Sam must prove his.
I instinctively gripped Sam tighter. We weren't going to be separated again, were we? Sam, however, slowly stood up, guiding me with him, and glared into the darkness.
Hit me with your best shot. I'm ready.
Oh my god. Don't say that. A dark echoing chuckle reverberated from the cave, causing a sliver of fear to rush down my body. I was beyond nervous, but we had come this far. We were gonna win his powers. Just leave! He's a huge dragon. You could just run. I mean, literally, have your cheeks flapping now, because he's a dragon. What more reason do you need?
Step into the cave and face me. I will judge you.
He sounds like he's beating off in there, dude. I'm not going in. The memories of my nightmare began to fill my head. What if it was a trick? What if the dragon killed Sam while he was in there? Despite my frightening thoughts, Sam stepped towards the cave, nodding.
You got it.
Don't do it, man. He's gonna burn off your wing piece that's already not there. Come on. Every voice and nerve in my head screamed for me to stop him. I didn't want him to die. At the same time, this was a test. He had to do it. No, you don't. You just don't use the powers, bro. I was placing my heart on the table. She's doing what? This whole time I'm saying there's something wrong with her heart, but she can just freaking undo it like a Mrs. Potato Head or some shit, and hoping it wouldn't be ripped apart with a single blast. Despite the fact that we love him, we trust him enough, right? I think that's how this would go. I'm gonna let him do it on that logic and that logic alone, because I feel like that if I'm thinking of it like a test, right? Like if I trust enough in our love to like conquer whatever, right? Then I would let him do it because love conquers all. That's the logic I'm using. We're going with it. I had to trust him. He could do this. Damn. I watched as Sam walked into the cave, especially with the dream. He probably implanted that dream to give us doubts. You know what I'm saying? Or Sam's about to get crispy, one or the other. Into the cave, following behind until it vanished into the darkness. I stood once again between the light and the dark, waiting. Moments of silence ran by, filling my body with anxiousness. Was he safe? Was he okay? At the sudden shout of a dragon's roar, I jumped and gripped to the cave wall, frightened to the core. It echoed in the silence out of the mouth of the cave, but I became worried. What happened? What was going on? The faint echo of footsteps began to make their way towards me. Despite me not being able to see into the darkness, I hoped it was Sam. I prayed it was Sam unscathed. Dude, you're freaking, your eyeballs. You're eyeballess, bro. As Sam finally appeared out of the darkness, I gasped, not at seeing him at last, but when I saw his eyes. They were swirling with red and green flames along the whites of his eyes, while his emerald irises glowed in the shadows of the cave. You best not have taken over his body, bro. Because first of all, it's gross, and second of all, we can't work with this. Just from seeing him, I could tell he had changed and had become much more powerful. Sam? Sam grinned at me, stepping up in front of me and placing a hand on my head.
What's up, you doofus?
Oh, thank goodness. I bit my lip and the frick is this music? This is not that we should run and then have the romantic moment, not in the frickin' mouth of the cave where the dragon can come up and bite us in the butt. I bit my lip and shook my head, pounding a fist into his chest before hugging him to me tightly.
Whoa. Hey, it's all right. I'm right here.
Thank God you are. Again with that.
May your battle be won, Lord of Dragons.
Lord of Dragons, what were you going to do otherwise? Either you're going to give him your powers or make him crispy. And now he's just Lord of Dragons? I looked over Sam's shoulder into the darkness, seeing the faint outline of a large dragon's head fade away before my eyes. What the? Lord of Dragons? Before Sam could answer me, a light burst into the air, causing us to grip onto each other and shut our eyes. Say, the warmth of the light seemed to comfort and ease our travel to wherever the dragon was sending us. Regardless, I clung to Sam tightly, desperate not to let go of him. When we opened our eyes at last, we were in the war room in the middle of the space with the rebel leaders, the incubi and their wives staring wide-eyed at us. Before anyone could move, however, Dinah applauded at us, making everyone turn their heads toward her confusion.
Well done, you two.
Told you love was
Wait,
real.
You knew where they were all along?
I'm just going to point that out yet again.
She told us they were gone. She didn't say she didn't know where.
Oh man, I'm telling you, your doja's on point.
Listen, that's rude.
That is her second line, I'll have you know. I'm pretty sure third line. She was talking about like something in the war room that she called our dude Sparky, which was bothersome enough. And then she pops up and says this.
At least they're safe now.
That's a spirit. James, however, took a step towards Sam, peering at him. Sam's eyes had returned to normal, but I bet that his aura was different now, that he was Lord of Dragons, or whatever that the dragon had called him.
At least you're safe now.
You were worried about him too, dude.
Don't ruin it. He has a reputation.
He's much stronger than before now.
Oh, dude, that laugh. I'm sorry, but that laugh is so gross. Oh, man. Sam gave James a smug look before holding out his hand.
Yeah, I'm all right now.
Thank goodness. The two brothers shook hands, smiling at one another. I was happy to know that he was all right as well, giving him a squeeze. Dinah, however, cleared her throat as the rebel leaders took off, catching everyone's attention.
Well, I hate to break up this little reunion, but we have a battle to fight tomorrow. We should rest.
Everyone was in agreement, especially my aching body. The run in the forest was not a kind one. As everyone began to leave, however, Dinah called out.
Sam, a moment please. Alone.
I was worried about what Dinah wanted to speak to Sam alone about, but I left the room with the rest of the group regardless. Dinah seemed adamant. However, I remained at the door listening in.
So, you got me alone. What do you want?
I peeked into the room to see Dinah face away from Sam, who had his arms crossed and was waiting for her to speak.
Tomorrow is the day we head out to fight him. We've been fighting for 10 years, and it will finally end.
You're stalling. What is it?
Do you know how many lives have been lost because of this war?
Sam finally lowered his arms and glared at the back of Dinah's head. I glared as well. Why was she bringing this up? From the tone of her voice, however, she seriously wanted an answer.
Hundreds? Thousands?
9.5 million lives.
Damn, son! Holy shit! That's crazy! Oh my god. 9.5 million? Sam's breath hitched in shock, as did mine. That many lives had been lost? Was this war truly as bloody as the rebel leaders described it to be? Dinah turned her head and stared into Sam's shocked gaze.
I had to send off and watch almost 9.5 million soldiers marching to their deaths. This world lost that many lives and had to take their blood and ashes into its soil as the battles we fought ended.
Hold the phone. Wait, you sent 9.5 million soldiers? That means the other side lost probably just as much, if not like less or more, or something around there, I'm assuming. Unless your guys are just that BA that, but then some of them were dying, so that they must have been killing the other ones too, right? Because if none of them were dying, then I'd understand, but dang, that's only on your side? She said she had to send off and watch almost 9.5 million soldiers, so she sent these, that's crazy.
The Demon Lord, however, ravaged and slaughtered thousands of innocent lives in between, sending more people to their deaths just because they were in his way.
Why are you telling me this?
All of those lives could have been spared.
Dinah turned around and glared hard at Sam, and to my surprise, Sam froze in place.
Every single life that was lost during this war could have lived, could have been leading normal lives.
Damn. Sam didn't open his mouth. Why wasn't he saying anything? I felt the need to step in, but I was stopped by a hand over my mouth. Damien, get your hand off my face. Did you even wash your hands? I looked up to see Damien covering my mouth and staring into the room intently. I didn't understand. Why was he hushing me? I looked back into the room as Dinah began to step towards Sam.
My kingdom became the target of the Demon Lord's wrath, and I came back to the castle and my people screaming to the sky and burning in the flames. My family was taken away from me, and now the only person I had left in my life is missing, presumably dead.
Oh no, you talking about, good old Saro piece? I silently gasped, instantly thinking of Saro. He couldn't have been. There was no way. As Dinah finally got close to Sam, leaning nose to nose with him, her eyes began to glow a cruel, cold, I can't even read, dude. Her eyes began to glow a cruel, cold, golden color, making me worry.
And it's all because of you, your brothers, and that human.
Oh, shit. Don't mess with him. He's the Lord of Dragons. No! Like lightning, Dinah and Sam slammed into the far wall. However, instead of Dinah against the wall, Sam was held against it with Dinah's hand over his mouth. What surprised me the most was Sam staring at Dinah with almost a shocked and fearful expression. What the hell? Sam gripped Dinah's arm, but for some reason, she didn't seem to be affected by his strength, like he was gripping stone. Is it the angel again? Where did her strength come from?
I want to get it through your head that this war is your fault. Yours and that human's faults. My parents, my sister, their lives were ripped away from this world because of you two. My kingdom burned, drowned in the flames of the Demon Lord because of you two.
Shit. Well, my bad. Oh, no, that's actually quite terrible.
Your brothers were too enthralled with the human world to give a damn about where they came from, so I could have never convinced them to come back. You were my only hope, and you decided that the human was more important than the peace of this world. Because of your love for her, you stayed in the human world and caused so much death.
Damn. Struggle to step in? What the fuck? You know what? I don't think this is a good idea. Dinah seems pretty fucking riled up right now. I don't think this is a good idea. Stepping in now would probably get us crossed off. I'll go ahead and save, just to be sure, but I'm going to keep watching.
I want to burn that anger into your soul. Every single life that has been lost in this war to stop the Demon Lord was because of you and your love.
Jeez. Dinah's hand slowly moved from Sam's mouth to his collar and gripped it, pulling him up onto his toes. However, as they continued to stare at each other, Sam's eyes began to glow a bright red and gold color, the mixture swirling in his green irises.
This war wasn't.
Yes, it was!
Dinah quickly pulled Sam forward and slammed him back into the wall, causing him to jerk and wince, growling but continuing to stare at Dinah's angry expression. Around Dinah's body was a dark purple aura, flickering like a wildfire with her screams.
If I had just killed that human and dragged you back, the world would not be suffering as it is! If that human wasn't alive, then the Demon Lord would not have done what he did!
Damn, son. Good thing we didn't walk in. She probably would have done it right here and there. Or whatever. Shit.
If you and your brothers had just stayed, this war would not have happened!
We're gonna end it!
We will! And when this war is over, I will never have to see you or that damn human ever again!
Damn, you were so nice in the other one. You even gave me like a flower headdress. Shit, now I'm getting scrubbed on. I stared wide-eyed as Dinah lowered her head down and slightly loosened her grip on Sam's collar. Her back was arched over, twitching and spasming. You good? As Dinah gritted her teeth.
That is why you two must survive.
Good. She might not have crossed me off then. No, she might have. She was pretty pissed. You know, people do pretty crazy things in aggravation, but it's probably better we stayed outside.
What?
Dinah's voice weakened immensely, drenched in softened, choked sobs and whimpers.
You two need to survive this war. You need to protect her and stay alive no matter what.
My heart dropped, but my mind was lost. Where was this coming from? I felt Damien loosen his grip over my mouth slightly as I watched Sam straighten up to look down at Diana. The aura around Dinah slowly began to die out. With each word, Dinah choked out.
If either of you die, then this war will have happened for nothing. All of those lives, all of this destruction. The only reason we are here is because of you two.
Honestly, like if you really think about it, I mean, that's all terrible. Trust me, it's absolutely horrible. But, I mean, the end result is a much better world for, I'm assuming, forever. Like, the far, far foreseeable future. Because the Demon Lord, I'm not sure how long these dudes live, but, like, the Demon Lord was just, you know, a dick. Like, I said this in the previous one. He was really bad, right? Obviously. So, you know, you don't want that guy ruling over it. At some point, this was going to happen anyway. You know? It was going to happen anyway. Like the rebellion, it was going to happen anyway. Nobody likes this guy, right? So it happened sooner because of us, yes, but it was going to happen regardless, and it's going to lead to a better future anyway. So you can't really feel too bad, you know, because all those people were fighting for what they believed in.
Diana.
Dinah looked up to Sam, a new hopeless pain burning in her eyes as tears began to stream down her face.
Swear to me, Brute, that you will take responsibility for this and live. No matter what happens. Damn the war, damn my life. But you must swear that you understand and will take this responsibility.
Dang, man. My heart was hurting at the sight of Diana. She looked so broken, barely gripping to Sam and no longer forcing him against the wall behind him. Sam, however, pressed his lips together. What was he going to do? Sam, staring at Diana's expression, slowly grabbed onto both of Diana's horns and pulled Diana's head downward, pressing his forehead to the top of her head. What are you doing?
I swear.
For the first and only time in my life, I watched Dinah crumple to the ground onto her knees with Sam following her down. Diana's hands released Sam and covered her face before she started sobbing violently into her palms. Sam kept his hand on her horns, pressing his forehead onto the top of her head with closed eyes. Red energy from Dinah's body slowly began to slide along her form and into Sam's head, slowly wrapping around him and fading away. Jeez, man. Grabbing the horns must be some sort of like sensual thing because he was really enjoying it when we did it when we were like, you know, in the whole sexy mood and whatnot. And then she seemed to really like be comforted by that when he grabbed her horns or something. So that must be that must mean something, you know, to them. But anyway, I stepped away from the door and looked at Damien, seeing him look down at the ground in shame. Damien.
It is our fault, but we can't change the past. We can only end this.
It's funny because a lot of you guys were saying in the comments that Damien was the only one that she wouldn't go after or something like that. So it's pretty funny that he's like, oh man, you know, it's just so bad. But in reality, it's not your fault, dude. She didn't want you anyway. Oh, that's terrible. I nodded, feeling the weight of the world rest on my soul. In a way, I felt completely responsible for this war even happening. I loved Sam enough to keep him away from his duty, his reason for birth. That's total BS. I had chained him to me, and I wouldn't let him go. I looked back to Dinah, seeing her shaking and crying as Sam continued to remain still holding her horns. The energy had vanished, and all that was left were the tears Dinah was shedding. Did Sam take her energy?
Sam took away her rage.
Oh. Dang. Wait, what? I looked up at Damien, confused. He was an incubus, so he was only able to take away sexual energy, right? He could take other forms of energy too? Sam could do that?
Yes, actually.
Oh.
While he's an incubus, he's also part brute demon, just like the rest of us.
Fabulous. I was surprised. Sam was part brute demon? So were the boys? Damien chuckled softly, assumingly because he read my mind and nodded.
Our mothers were succubi. The demon lord, though, he's no incubus. He's a brute demon who feeds on and uses rage energy.
He's just smiling while saying all this. He's like, yeah, he totally does that. Damien looked into the room, losing part of his smile.
Sam, our brothers and I were born incubi, but Sam inherited more brute demon traits than the rest of us. Thus, why he had the nicknames Brute and Monster.
Jeez, because he wasn't like a regular incubus? Damien nodded. I looked to Sam, seeing him stare into Dinah's scalp. Gross. With a focused but intense expression. It's like, damn, she's got a lot of lice. The more I thought about it, the more I could see what he meant.
Sam never got into the idea of taking and using sexual energy. He was angry all of the time in the demon world, so he fed on rage energy instead. It wasn't until he went to the human world with us when he began to rely on his incubus powers.
I can only imagine it. Sam, who hated his father and was the rebel son of the Incubi brothers, full of anger. That was probably why he was so forward when we had met and full of attitude. Still, I fell in love with him. He was truly a wonderful man. He did everything he could to make me happy and feel safe. He always put me first, which flattered me and made me feel incredibly special. I didn't know what to say to that. Dinah eventually stopped crying and wiped the tears from her face, but she didn't raise her head. Damien, whom I thought would have stayed longer, disappeared, leaving me alone to watch.
Sam, if I die, would you?
Would he what? I stared, hoping that Dinah would reply with a clearer question, but she merely closed her eyes and let out a small sigh. Suddenly, the noise in the room became silent, but I could see Damien's lips move. Sam's eyes widened as he finished speaking, but he didn't say anything back, even as Dinah looked up at Sam. When Sam finally reacted, he let out a silent sigh and spoke back, the sound of his voice negated through whatever silence engulfed the room. As my body began to collapse, I watched as Dinah listened and nodded with a smile before fading into the ground through a dark pentagram. That's just how she travels. Even when she's upset, she's like, I'm just going to go to my room. She just leaves. Sam, however, remained there, staring where Dinah had been and took in whatever she had said. Upon the demand of my body, I began to make my way towards the bedroom, not wanting Sam to know that I had been eavesdropping. What did he say? I began to head back to my room, ready for what was going to happen tomorrow. Everything would be decided then.
You cruel, selfish bastard!
You were just so upset. I mean, Sam, we need you again. Oh shit, that must be Sarah. A shout, however, interrupted my journey to my room. I froze in place before turning my head toward a door that was barely open at a small crack. It was the door leading to the grand hall, Sarah's training room. Why was Dinah there, though? And who was she yelling at? Obviously him, dude. I peeked inside to see Dinah glaring into the darkness with her arms crossed tightly over her chest. As I squinted, trying to see what she was glaring at, I silently gasped. Sarah! Sarah was kneeling in the dark before his mistress, his head bowed low in shame. When did he return? More than that, why was he keeping his head low, his head down? Was he not successful in his mission?
Where in the 7 planes of hell have you been, Sarah?
Jeez.
My lady,
You left the castle with no notification or warning, and you activated your damn holy magic to deny me the right to summon you to my side. How dare you!
Oh shit.
if you would let me...
And now you suddenly waltz back into the castle with a smile on your face as if you had gone out and killed the demon lord himself. Explain yourself!
Shit, man. Damn, I hope this doesn't turn out bad. Staring at Dinah, I could see her face burning as red with rage. Her cheeks, however, were glistening as rogue tears ran down them. Sarah kept his head down, but continued to plead with Diana.
My lady, I was on a personal quest. I had to retrieve something I believed to be important, and it was incredibly selfish of me to do so. I'm sorry, but I needed to complete this task before we went into battle.
You placed this quest over your duty to me?
Only this once, my lady. It needed to be done immediately, and I greatly apologize for doing so, but I promise my journey bore results.
You found it?
Do you not realize how worried you made me? I have barely rested these past 3 nights because of you.
You better pull that flower out quick, dude. I stared at Diana wide-eyed in shock. She was concerned about him. Sarah seemed to be surprised as well, eyes wide and staring at the ground. However, he didn't lift his head, most likely still following a demand previously given to him to keep his head down.
My lady, I'm deeply sorry.
Sorry doesn't make this better. What if you were killed? What if I was killed? You are supposed to be by my side at all times. You broke the vow that you made not only to me, but to my family, that you would stay with me and protect me.
I didn't know that. You didn't fill me in on that one. Shit, you'd said that?
My lady, please!
Enough! I've heard enough!
Fuck, no, this isn't turning out how I wanted it. Dinah turned away from Sarah, looking to the ground and clenching her eyes shut. More rogue tears ran down her face as she gritted her teeth. Sarah finally lifted his face, shocked to see her back instead of her face.
You are dismissed. You are no longer permitted to be in the same room as me until further notice.
What?
My lady.
Show her the flower, my god.
I said you are dismissed, Sarah.
No, dude, that's not what I wanted, man.
Isair.
You do not have permission to use my...
Whoa, what the fuck? All of a sudden, Sarah lunged forward and wrapped his arms around Dinah's arms and chest, hugging her body to his tightly, and she released a tearful gasp of surprise. Sarah buried his face in her shoulder. Okay, I was gonna say you bury your face anywhere else, I might not end too well, as Dinah stared wide-eyed at the wall ahead of her. Dinah froze in his arms as Sarah clutched her body to his, locking it against his chest.
Do not send me away from you. I broke my vow, yes, but I did it for a reason. I cannot bear the thought of being separated from you. Not after what I have discovered.
What? I stared, feeling my heart clench. It was like watching a romantic drama, where the two leads were either going to break up or confess their love for each other. The air was tense and full of both anticipation and fear. Dinah remained frozen in Sarah's arms as he lifted his head and gently relaxed his embrace around her.
Isair, I've brought you something.
You... What?
Dinah finally began to move, slowly turning around in Sarah's arms to look up at him in confusion. Sarah frowned, seeing her tearful and red face, and gently brought a hand up to her cheek. He gingerly wiped the tears from Dinah's eyes with the back of his fingers before cupping her face. Dinah didn't lean in, but she didn't object to it.
I brought you something very important. It may not seem important to this war, but it's important to me.
My heart caught itself in my throat. Did he? Sarah released Dinah's cheek before waving his hand between their faces. Freaking like John Cena or something. Black and purple mist forming in the air, shifting into something small. As it finally materialized, Dinah gasped and I silently echoed her reaction. In the air floated a beautiful golden rose on a dark green thornless stem. It had mostly blossomed, showing its beautiful petals and glowing softly in between Sarah and Dinah. It slowly turned in the air, showing Dinah all of its magnificence.
The golden rose. A symbol and proof of my love for you, Isair. I've wanted to retrieve it for you for the longest time, and now I finally have.
Sarah.
I love you so much. You have given my life so much meaning, and I have sworn my life to protecting you. Isair, you are the most precious and the most beautiful woman to ever grace the 5 worlds, and being with you every day fills me with such joy.
Damn.
If this is what it takes to prove my love for you, then I will happily give you thousands of golden roses for as long as I have breath. But please, know now that my feelings for you are pure and true.
I felt like crying. As I watched the scene unfold, Dinah was stunned, streams of rogue tears once again falling down her cheeks as she stared at Sarah. The rose slowly lowered to float between their chests, as if it was patiently waiting for something to happen.
You are my everything. My moon, my stars, my world. Please, Isair, do not send me away from you.
Damn. Damn. That's legit right there.
Sarah, you idiot.
Sarah let out a soft chuckle as Dinah wiped her eyes with a very, very small smile.
Insult me all you like. I deserve it for leaving your side. However, now that I've proven my love to you, I must know the truth. Do you love me?
Dinah looked up at Sarah as her smile grew ever so slightly. Something about Dinah changed as she looked up at him. Her eyes seemed to be lighter and full of joy. My heart melted at the way they looked at each other. Sarah watched Dinah with curiosity, and Dinah gazing at Sarah in warm elation. Dinah lifted her hand to the rose and gently cupped it underneath its petals, making Sarah look down and gasp. In Dinah's hands, the rose fully bloomed, revealing its innermost gold, almost white petals. Sarah looked back up at Diana, seeing her cry joyful tears and fighting back tears of his own.
I do, Cyril. More than you could ever know. I was just...
Don't even tell me you were just scared. Because that's like the smallest, I mean, it's not really in like reality, but like it's the smallest thing in relation to everything else that's going on. Cyril gently shushed her, cupping her cheek gently and wiping the tears away with his thumb. For the first time, at least from what I had seen, Dinah nuzzled into his hand, closing her eyes. She looked so innocent and pure with Cyril now. Was this the real Diana?
Whatever fear you had, let it go. I swear to never hurt you and to love you until time stands still.
Damn. I stared teary-eyed as Cyril gently took the rose from between them and placed it in Diana's hair behind her ear. Dinah waited until he finished before reaching up and wrapping her arms around his neck.
I love you too, Cyril.
Oh, that's so sweet. At last, Cyril wrapped his arms around Dinah's waist and pulled her close as they both leaned in and finally kissed. It was a magical sight to behold. We're just always snooping, dude. Like, we literally snooped on everybody. Their love echoed in the kiss, making each other almost glow within the room. I felt my cheeks warm in an uncontrollable blush as I watched. You should not be looking at this. This is a private moment. I'm gonna keep watching. Like right after I say that, let me keep watching. They might start boning. Okay, just saying. It was beautiful to watch unfold. Dinah and Cyril finally found love within each other. I was giddy and excited for them both. As they slowly pulled away, Dinah slightly slapped his chest, making Cyril laugh a bit.
You really did worry me.
I know, and I'm sorry.
I'll forgive you if you tell me one thing.
Anything.
Did our guest convince you to do this?
My heart caught in my throat, but out of fear, not excitement. Was Sarah going to tell on me? I was the one who convinced him to go, but would Dinah punish me for giving him the... Are you shitting me? Why would she punish? This is like a great thing. Cyril tightened his hold around Dinah's waist, making her gasp slightly before nuzzling nose to nose with her.
I was merely given advice and counsel. I chose to leave on my own.
I let out a silent sigh as Dinah chuckled and ran her hand along Cyril's cheek.
Cyril, I know when you are lying to me, but I'll let it go this time. At least you're safe here, with me now.
And I will never leave your side again.
Damn. The pair smiled at each other before Cyril captured Dinah's lips again in another loving kiss. As she kissed back, a dark purple pentagram appeared beneath the pair and slowly drew them into the floor. She's out. They're going to the bedroom. They probably wanted some real alone time. I shook my head, laughing at myself before turning on my heel and heading back to my room. I finally reached my room and let my body fall onto the bed. I let out a sigh of utter pleasure as I felt the cloud-like bed cradle my body on its surface. I was beyond happy. I had been kidnapped and taken to the demon world by a demon lord, trapped here unless he or I died. Then Sam and I had been haunted by a powerful being that had been hell-bent on testing us. This entire week had become a wild roller coaster ride of excitement that I would have never expected. Still, there was joy to be found in adventure, and my curiosity thanked destiny for letting me experience it. Now all I wanted to do was to get home and marry the man I loved. As Sam finally entered the room at last, I smiled and stood walking over and wrapping my arms around him.
Hey, you ready to go home?
You damn straight. We held each other, locked in silence and unable to say anything more. We let the situation we had just gone through sink in, relieved that we were going to be happy from now on together. All we could do in this moment was hold each other and listen to our synchronized heartbeats. And apparently, ours is quite fucked. As the thought of tomorrow danced in my head, I began to grow fearful. Was I ready to go into battle? Was Sam? Were any of us for that matter? We were about to walk into the final clash of a world war. Would we survive? Would I live to remain with Sam and feel his embrace again? Tomorrow brought too many questions to think about, and I became frustrated and scared. Well, you know what? I'm saving it for next time. Gotcha. But seriously, I'm going to save it for next time. It's going on quite long. I do apologize, but I think we'll be able to wrap up the rest of the game in the next video, and I think that this spicy scene will be a nice intro to it. I think it'll get things kicked off in the right direction. So I do apologize. It is the second time I've done this. Well, the first time no, it's the second time I've done it. I'm not going to try to explain it. But either way, again, I think it'll be really cool. I'm going to work on getting this one out for you relatively soon. I'm trying not to have massive gaps between videos anymore. As things really zone in and I get more more time on my hands, naturally I'll be producing more content more frequently, not to mention all the other series that I'm doing as well. So hopefully you guys are cool with that. With that being said, definitely make sure you rate the video what you think it deserved. Drop some comments down below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I personally thought it was quite good. I'm very, very shocked at the storytelling aspect of this game. It's not that I was doubting it, but I mean, it's like far beyond exceeding my expectations. So, bravo on that. I'm loving it. I really am. It really pulls you into the story. So I gotta really applaud the developer on this one. Very, very, very good game. But aside from that, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please consider sharing it as well. That kind of stuff really helps me out a lot, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or any social media really, or even word of mouth with your friends. That's really awesome too. Of course, it directly helps me as well as the entire community and is greatly appreciated. So with that being said, if you want to become a Sage in Training, make sure you subscribe today. And as always, this has been Mr. Basie, your favorite Sage, and I'll see you in the next video.